All right.
We're on.
Welcome back to Friday Night Rants and Bants. Episode 4. We're on.
On a Tuesday.
Episode 4 on a Tuesday. That's how we do it.
Wasn't it Tuesday when we did Game of Thrones? Just a side tidbit?
I think it's Tuesday Night Rants and Bants at this stage.
Nah, it doesn't have the same catch to it.
Exactly. That's why I called it Friday Night Rants and Bants.
Yeah. We'll release it on a Friday.
No, we won't.
We'll disable the video for every other night other than Friday. You can only watch it on Friday.
That's the
full of fucking
limit we're
shit.
saying. All right. So this one, I think, is the topic of the season.
Very Tarantino Christmas.
A very Tarantino Christmas.
Merry Christmas, motherfuckers.
So we're setting the stage with I think our own ratings of Tarantino.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to talk about, obviously, Tarantino released his 9th film this year, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, not America, as I keep saying. So we want to talk about that, but I figure a better lead-in would be to talk about him as a director and all of his work and sort of discuss our faves of his, going down to our least favourite. Should be pretty easy. He's only made 9 films, 10 if you want to count Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 separately.
I do. I mean, they're two different movies.
Well, I guess.
Quite different in tone and style.
Well, very different. But we'll get into that.
Well, I think we all three of us like Tarantino as a director.
Yeah, I think we can all agree he's probably one of the better directors working today. I think we can agree on that.
Even if he only makes
Today?
Today?
As in, like, today?
Yeah, today,
This
right
minute.
now. This minute, right now.
Do his most recent films rank highly on your list?
On my... What do you mean? No,
Working
shut the
today.
Shut the
I
fuck
think-
up.
I think in
I
fact-
will fly at you like a fucking lightsaber.
Is it because I'm making a good point?
Yes, Michael, and you're not allowed to make good points on this podcast.
So if
We
you
shit talk and that's it. Shut
I
the
think
fuck up.
part of this will be my argument towards him perhaps not being one of the better filmmakers.
Okay, well then never
today.
mind.
I think it's good that we've had the introduction from my two retard co-hosts.
Yeah.
We've got here Big Brain Michael on my left.
Megamind.
Megamind.
Megamind Michael.
Big M. Big boy M. Boy.
That's your pimp name.
Big M.
Big M.
Mm.
And then on my right, we have Frozone Jackson.
Frozone.
Who man-
I thought you said
Say the line.
in rehab. We have Frozone
Where's
Jackson.
my super suit?
Where's my super suit? I said, where is my super suit?
Very fitting for the Tarantino podcast, can
Yeah.
I just say?
Yeah.
It was all planned.
Yeah,
I knew what I was doing all along.
You got the real Samuel L. Jackson here. He's outside waiting to come in.
Exactly. He's going to be a special guest. We had JJ last time.
JJ last time, Samuel L. Jackson this time.
Yeah,
It's going to happen.
we're getting on some pretty good commentators for a channel with 11 subs.
They want to get on that 60 view train.
Damn.
I think I'm one of those subs, so I don't know if that counts.
I think I'm also one of those subs.
Jackson, are you subscribed?
Yeah, I'm subscribed.
Oh, yeah, nah.
Everyone, no, it's good. So we've got, what? 8 subs. No,
Oh,
actually, no.
obviously, 8
Brad
subs
and
out
Matt
there.
are subscribed as well. So never mind. It's all
Okay,
good.
so there's no subs.
No
Zero
subs.
subs.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's okay. Anyway.
And I'm your co-host, Mr. Incredible.
Dude, he's so shit. Why did you pick him?
Why would you not pick
Because you're going to fuck
fucking-
Elastigirl.
Not Frozone. No, fuck off.
You don't, no, you're not
I was going to
picking
say, why would you not pick, what's his name? Fucking Syndrome. There we go.
No.
Okay.
This is the Tarantino podcast.
The Tarantino
The
podcast.
Underminer.
He was my favourite.
Well, fuck's sake. I actually just forgot that they made an Incredibles 2. That was the thing that happened.
Yeah, I want to be Screenslaver, actually. I've changed my mind. I'm not, what's his name? Who did you call me? Megamind.
Yeah, Megamind.
No, I'm Jonah Hill from the, whoever, yeah, little shit.
Yeah. Before he gets superpowers. You're the cameraman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who
Yeah.
gets cucked by the fucking reporter. That's good
Sounds
shit.
like me.
I'm going to be... Nah.
You're Frozone.
We're
We're sticking with that.
fine.
You Frozen. You get no choice in the matter.
Okay, fine. I'll be Frozen. Are you still sticking with
Incredibles. Incredibles is my favourite Tarantino movie.
I can be Jack. It's perfect.
No.
Oh, fuck you then. Anyway, we're
Yeah.
a very Tarantino Christmas, everybody. Let's talk about The Incredibles. Remember that film that came out in 2004?
Great movie.
Great movie.
Tarantino's finest work.
Tarantino really outdid himself on that one.
Oh, fuck's sake. Well, we're gonna work anti-clockwise. So that means fucking Screenslaver.
Nice, yeah.
He's
I'm at the
that,
top of the anti-clockwise.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think that fits in with his viewpoints because Michael.
Is it contrarian?
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
contrarian
he is a
little bitch.
It's good.
And he will.
That's why I'm opposite him, so I can throw this Coke lid at him when I get angry.
Good.
It's not going to happen because I know you'll hurt me.
Okay, well, we'll start with the ratings on what we think of Tarantino's works. I'll let Michael start off.
All right. So starting with the first being my favorite, most preferable, going to the least preferable. I ranked them as Inglourious Bastards, Death Proof, Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill 1 and 2, Django Unchained, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Jackie Brown, and my least favorite is The Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight. That's a really interesting list.
Does there anything stick out?
Yeah,
Unusual about that
I
list?
actually found odd that Django was so low on that list.
It's not that I dislike Django, I just think the films which I've placed higher are superior. It's not that I have no real issue with Django Unchained.
Yeah. But do you have... Because I'm curious because you'll find out. I quite like Hateful Eight, really.
Okay.
But it is your least favourite of all of them.
Hmm.
Is that for, like...
All right. Well,
I'm curious to know why. Also, another thing that surprises me is Death Proof is your second favourite.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because I love Death Proof, but
when
it is
you
very
passed
high.
me the notepad and I had to look at his films and go, well, how do I want to list this? I kind of had to because a lot of these films are really good.
Yes.
And being...
I think we can say that none of these on this list are actually bad movies.
No, I wouldn't call... Oh,
No,
never mind. Hold on.
I wouldn't say they're bad movies.
Okay, well, you seem like...
Anyway, the way that I've ranked this is more or less how much each of these films has influenced me, which is largely due to how I felt about it when I saw it.
Okay, yeah.
So...
Like a first viewing experience
Yes.
sort of thing, yeah.
So... When I saw Inglourious Bastards, which is like my highest ranked one,
Yeah.
I pretty much thought that was the best film I'd ever seen at that point in time.
Yeah.
I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's fucking amazing.
Whereas when I saw Hateful Eight in gold class, mind you, so I
Ooh,
paid a lot
shit.
of money for that, I was completely underwhelmed. And the feeling I had leaving the cinema was that of just complete
Meh.
Yeah. So that's how I've done mine.
That's fair enough. Okay. Well, I suppose the first question I gotta ask is what was meh about the hate? Did it feel like a recycling of Django to you? What was
not
about
Django. It seemed more derivative, sort of like a Reservoir Dogs in a
Okay.
Django setting.
Yeah.
I don't really think Tarantino works that well with the cowboy thing he was doing there
Okay.
for a while. I don't think westerns are actually his strongest
That's fair.
suit.
Do you prefer him in like sort of the pseudo modern sort of like Pulp Fiction sort of or do you prefer
Yeah,
like
I
period?
think the sort of neo-noir thing
Yeah.
suited him a little bit better.
I think the
his-
fast-talking dialogue probably doesn't work as well in that setting. Like, the dialogue focus, I think, works better in kind of that sort of crime setting where there would be a lot of back and forth, whereas I think the Western setting, there wouldn't be as much eloquence. It would just make as much sense.
Well, that's
I think.
fair.
I don't recall the dialogue in Hateful Eight being particularly good though either.
Oh,
No,
see,
I agree. I found Hateful Eight, especially the start, before anything actually happened, to get really boring.
See, I disagree with both of you on that front. I have rewatched The Hateful Eight. I've seen it twice, once quite recently, and it's, as you know, it's like a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't sit down, 3-hour movies, they're a commitment, and I can watch that movie from start to finish, no breaks. Fine. I find something about the dialogue in that movie really, all of his movies have pretty good dialogue. I know, Michael, I'll butt heads with you, fucking coming at you.
I've got a hard head, Jackson.
I know. I got 2 hard heads. Fuck that joke. Fuck's sake. Anyway, the dialogue's pretty good, and in this one especially, I don't know. There's something about his Western stuff that I find really wholesome, is the way I would describe it. I really like.
I like my Tarantino wholesome, yeah.
Yeah, it's good shit.
No, I like my Tarantino violent and full of feet.
Full of the feet
Full of
fetishes.
feet.
We'll get to that when we get to Kill
where
Bill.
Where is the vampire one on there? What's it called?
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, where's that on the list?
That's a Robert Rodriguez
I would
film.
say, well, yeah, it is.
Yeah,
a
it's
Rodriguez
not,
film.
yeah.
But if I had to place it amongst these films,
I've
I
never
like
seen
how
it.
the film starts.
Yeah,
I've never seen
I think the second half falls away a
which
lot.
I would say is probably more Rodriguez's influence there.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
Because the first part of that film does sort of almost feel like an early Tarantino.
Yeah,
Okay.
true.
I have not seen that movie. That is one of the ones that I have on my list that I need to see. A lot of Robert Rodriguez's stuff, like Planet Terror and fucking From Dusk Till Dawn.
Machete
as well. I need to see all of that stuff because I've only ever really seen his like
Spy Kids.
Yeah, Spy Kids I've seen, and that'd be almost it from him. Didn't he do Sharkboy and Lava Girl? I've seen that. If he did that, it was either him or it was like he was associated as like a producer or something.
I think he was involved on some level. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think I compared Hateful Eight directly to Django because it was right after.
Yeah, well, it was like 3 years later.
Yeah, and I just found the comparison, to be really lacking in compared to Django because Django, I think, had much better actors doing much better scripting with a much stronger plot. Like Hateful Eight started out with not much of a strong plot. It was like there's just some people, they're all at this spot. Yeah, something's going to happen. But Django had the revenge story plan, the rescue story plan all at the start, and it had with Tarantino, or not with Tarantino, with Leo DiCaprio, who was a good pushback to Christoph Waltz and Jamie Foxx. Yeah. It just created so much more interesting ideas.
I agree with you. It definitely pushed the film forward a lot more. But that's also one of the things that in Hateful Eight, it's probably why I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a lot more than both of you, is because I'm very happy to just sit down and watch people talk in a Tarantino movie. I
am absolutely happy to do it. That's why I like Death Proof so much.
Yeah, well, that's true.
That movie is like an hour and a half
that's a good segue, because Death Proof is second on your list. And I watched Death Proof, and every time Death Proof gets mentioned to me, or at least early on when I was first working at Blocky, it was always like sort of like, have you seen Death Proof? It's sort of like that Tarantino movie where people are sort of like, oh, it's kind of shit. And then I watched it, I thought it was fucking great, and I didn't know what they were talking about. So can you walk us through what you love about Death Proof so much?
I think Death Proof, I watched it, I don't know, not that long ago, maybe a year or two ago.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good movie. And I think it's really underrated. I think it probably affected a lot of this like retro leaning stuff, which like came a little bit after it. Stuff like even stuff like Drive.
Yeah.
People started using these retro elements in films. I think that film probably contributed quite a lot.
And pushed that forward a lot.
And I also think the whole grindhouse concept is brilliant, and I actually wish I saw way more of it.
Yeah,
I would love to see two contemporary filmmakers doing a double bill for films which they're inspired by. I love that idea.
Because that was like that whole phase with him and Robert, right? They wanted to make a double feature that they would play back to back to an audience.
Yeah. I think the proper way the film was meant to be.
Yeah, and it didn't make...
With the fake trailers.
Yeah, with the fake trailers and everything. And I don't think it did particularly well when they released it at the time. Like when they did the double feature playing and whatnot. But it is really cool, and I love seeing that sort of really cool sort of stuff, like old cinema and whatnot coming back, like those things where you go and like Hateful Eight was meant to have an intermissionary period. Like if you went and saw that, like at the special, like
I think it was like 70
mil
ultra wide screen.
Yeah. Like they would have, and that's another. Just to quickly steer the conversation back to Hateful Eight, that's one of the things a lot of people are like. It sort of switches to violence really quick in that movie, and I don't mind that personally as a criticism. I'm like, I don't give a shit, but then I'm also like, well, it was meant to have an intermissionary period as well, where you're meant to sit and sort of the whodunit. Anyway, back to Death Proof.
I wanted to say, one of my metrics for Tarantino films is the massacre. You can't have a Tarantino film without a massacre, and I think the massacre in Hateful Eight is one of his weakest.
You think? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's certainly more contained to one small spot with very few people.
Yeah. Which seems to be what he's doing a little bit more of recently.
Yeah. Well, especially in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, there's like nothing in that.
I would say that one had a little bit more effect to it than the one in Hateful Eight. I could be wrong there, but
no, I agree with you.
I think it's because the rest of the movie, like, it's not something you would expect.
No, well, it's.
Well, I mean,
we'll save it for when we come back.
It kind of leads up to it, but it's something that you don't go into going, this movie is definitely going to end in a massacre like every other Tarantino movie.
I thought it did. I thought it was going to.
I mean, I did. Well, but in different sense.
Yeah. We'll discuss it later when we come to the actual. To that film, but I do understand what you're saying, and I do agree with you. The one I've only seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood once, but the final 15 minutes with that violence at the end of that movie it was actually quite full of, like, I'm not gonna lie, I was there like, fuck, that's pretty violent. That's pretty good. Because I like Tarantino violence. It's usually quite visceral and very in your face, and I was like, this one's actually got me the close to feeling a little bit uncomfortable.
One of the things I like about Tarantino is I think he understands there is like an intrinsic bloodlust with his audience.
Yeah,
and he knows how to build tension and how to mislead.
Shit.
Yeah.
Which he achieves on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. To how satisfying it.
I think you've got the good point there that tension building up to the bloodlust is the important part. That's why movies like Saw never did anything for me, because it's like, I know there's going to be blood. Immediately, as soon as the movie starts, there's blood. You don't care about any of it.
Yeah.
But, there's no lead up point to that, because there's
no
be constant tension.
Exactly.
There's going to be constant violence at all times.
And of course, you're not connected to any of the people in the movie as well. And that's what Tarantino does really well with his dialogue and whatnot. Like, you can tell so much about a person in like a couple of scenes from his movies. Whereas like Saw, you have an hour and a half, and at the end of the fucking thing, you're like, I know none of these people.
You exist to die.
Yeah, you exist to die. And in a Tarantino movie, you can do the same, but you also know this character's motivations, what they've been through, their existence in this world, and you care so much more. Even if they were just sort of just a by-the-by character out doing whatever, and whatever is only there for fucking, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Back to Death Proof anyway. I think Death Proof's really cool. And I think probably one of the reasons people don't like it is that 40-minute stretch at the start, which turns out to be like a fucking wild goose, like bait and switch. Where
that's one of my favorite parts, though.
I know, but I think for the average viewer going in and having to sit down for 40 minutes and get invested in these people, to then have them just immediately die and have it be the introduction to the villain, and having to then go through that again, I heard a point where people say it's exhausting, and I'm like, I don't think so, but I can understand why.
I think it makes it a bit harder to latch onto a character in the film and be like, oh yeah, this person really stood out in that film.
But it's the villain's movie, though. Really, in my opinion, in a way. I mean, you get attached to the girls at the end, and it's funny, but Kurt Russell steals that movie. Really,
to be honest, I think Death Proof probably had some of the best Tarantino dialogue. I Hateful Eight, to be honest, a lot of the time I was very bored watching the conversation scenes in that. But Death Proof, I don't think I was ever bored in either section watching the conversation parts, in the bar and stuff. I think all of it is written so tightly that you never have time to just go. Your mind doesn't wander.
Yeah.
You're always interested.
And then, of course, I don't know if you want to walk us through the ending of the film with that fucking mad 30-minute car chase, which is just insane and brilliant. Where, with fucking, what's her name? What was her name again?
I think it's Zoe Bell.
Yeah, Zoe Bell.
Doing insane stunt work on the front of the fucking car. And I didn't realize that she was doing it for real. And that's one of the primary reasons that fucking Quentin Tarantino cast her, was that she could do that. Now they're obviously quite good friends, and he gives her cameos in a lot of his newer stuff. But
I don't think she's ever done anything quite as good as her part in that film.
No, I don't think so either. But it's still cute to see her around.
Real quick, can we bring up that her cameo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is really bad, and it follows a even worse scene, that Bruce Lee scene.
That is a terrible fucking scene. I say that was horrible. I was literally just
you didn't like that?
I was kind of cringing, to be honest.
Yeah, I was cringing entirely. I think that Bruce Lee actor was really just overacting to the maximum extent. He was so cheesy, and just the whole scene just was
I understand the point is to establish Brad Pitt as an ultimate badass, so he has to beat up someone who's big in Hollywood. And it's fine for it to be Bruce Lee, but I don't know. The portrayal to me was just uncomfortable.
Okay. Well, it's probably
I'm not funny, but
Well, that's what I don't know if it was though.
Oh, I found it funny, but I'm also a fuckwit, so that could also explain it. I've also not seen any Bruce Lee films, so I don't know quite. I didn't feel uncomfortable by it.
I actually think that scene is based on something that happened in real life. I'm not sure if it was Bruce Lee that was involved, but I thought something similar might have actually happened in real life. But that doesn't excuse the scene being just really weirdly weird.
Yeah, tonally.
Yeah,
weird.
It's just strange, and it just comes off as. I'm not sure about you guys. Maybe we're going too far into the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
We'll finish this thought and then we'll go back.
But I thought I wasn't really sure if you're supposed to be kind of unsure if Brad Pitt's going to start killing good people. He's supposed to, you're supposed to be a bit threatened by him or something.
I never felt that way throughout the movie.
Because I was not quite sure what to make of him. If you're supposed to sort of not trust him or something like that. I don't know if it was just me thinking that, but he just seems like there's something more going on, and it's never really.
Do we ever resolve whether or not he killed his?
Yeah, well, I guess that's why. You sort of like, did he kill his
I don't
wife?
know.
Is he a crazy psycho? Or...
I never really looked at it that way. I always just thought that he was like the straight guy, like the really sort of like just working man, working Joe, doing what he needs to do to survive, and sort of contrasting against Leo DiCaprio's really, ambitious, flamboyant, like over the top actor. I want to be the fucking biggest star in Hollywood sort of shit. And I thought they were just balancing each other out. But I mean, that might be an intention. I'm not sure. I just never looked at it that way. Anyway, so Inglourious Basterds is obviously your favorite film, and I would say
I don't know if it's my favorite. I know I put it at the top of my list. It's just the one which, when I saw it, I left with the most satisfied.
Yeah, and
I think it's remained the most satisfying.
Yeah. Well, it's got arguably one of the most satisfying openings to a movie I've ever fucking seen in my life.
Most satisfying endings to a film.
Yeah, exactly. And fucking, we need Christoph Waltz in anything Tarantino is fucking incredible. Really. I would probably say that his performance as Hans Landa is probably better than, I actually don't know his character's name in Django. He thrives. He's a really good villain. He makes a really, really good villain. But Inglourious Basterds, I agree with you, because when I saw that film for the first time and I sat down and watched it, and I'm pretty over war films at this point, as I know you are, Chris.
Yes.
That movie is just fucking, it's something else. Like, a movie has passionate people behind it, and it's not just a fucking another war when like it's made by an American and like over half the movie is done in like 2 or 3 other languages.
Yeah.
It's, what is it? Italian, French, German, and then English on the side. And it's like, it's fucking insane.
Yeah.
I
think, spoilers. I also had Inglourious Basterds as number 1 on my list.
Oh shit! And I wasn't allowed.
I think it's probably the most complete Tarantino movie. Like, it feels like it's a whole story from start to end. There's nothing that you miss. There's nothing that is some part that's never told or not shown. Who everyone is. Exactly what they want, what they're trying to achieve. And there's not really any loose ends left afterwards.
Yeah. It also has some really fucking great bloodlust fucking Tarantino shootout moments as well.
Yeah.
Not the best, because I think there are some others, Kill Bill, that have some of the great bloodlust Tarantino
That's the thing,
scenes.
though. I think some of his other movies, like probably Kill Bill Volume 1, have better violence parts in them, but I think Inglourious balances the best parts of Tarantino. It has the great dialogue scenes. It has the great
the fucking
action
the bar
scenes.
scene is like
it has the tension moments.
It is a masterclass.
It has the build up.
Fucking tension filled. Scene.
It has the comedy. It has all parts you'd need to make the perfect Tarantino movie.
It's fucking insane. Like that bar scene is like, how long? It goes for like 30 minutes, and it's just a group of 6 people or so sitting in a bar talking and being interrogated in quotations by this Nazi general or whatnot, this SS guy or whatever. And it's just fucking incredible. And then obviously the payoff at the end is awesome as well in how understated it is, I think, is one of the awesome parts about it as well. Obviously the difference between the American and German 3. It's brilliant stuff. That's all I'm going to say. I think it's fucking amazing. I think that whole movie is just... I'm not normally a huge fan of the whole cut back and forth between different people in movies. Not because I don't like the idea, but more or less because I generally find someone I'm bored with. So, I'm watching the new Witcher show on Netflix at the moment, and there's 2 characters who I'm quite interested in. And then there's this one character, and I'm just like, I just don't really care. And then for like 20 minutes of that episode, it's just me zoning out because I'm like, I don't fucking care.
Even the sort of minor characters in Inglourious Basterds, I think, are relatively interesting.
Yeah, everyone's story is good.
The soldier who was in the watchtower doing the shooting, and the movie's based on him.
Propaganda film, yeah.
Even he's...
And they all tie together as well. Like, he's got the crush on the French girl who wants to kill Germans.
The Germans, because she was the one who escaped at the start from Hans Landa, and then that ties into her eventually sort of kind of working with the Americans, but sort of not directly. They just happen to be sort of at the same place at the same time. And then, it just... I think I sort of heard a criticism of that movie that it's sort of like, I don't know, people were like, it's just cheesy or like a parody or something. And I'm like, I don't see that criticism at all. Like, there are things about, I can't quite remember the criticism, but it was, I don't know, they just didn't find it particularly, I think cheesy is the best way to describe it. Like they didn't like the opening elongated like start with the introduction to the villain. I don't understand how you cannot like that. Like to me, that is like one of the greatest establishing villain sort of scenes ever.
We can come back to it later if you'd prefer, but I think there's probably an important sort of like storytelling thing in regards to the ending of Inglourious Basterds opposed to the ending of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and how they both sort of they lead towards a point, and I think Inglourious Basterds does its ending. They both involve like a historical figure.
Yeah.
And there's tensions towards whether or not that person is going to die or not.
Is this just to clarify? Is this
talking about Hitler in Inglourious Basterds?
Yeah,
and I'm talking about Sharon Tate in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's the subversion of the historical moment.
Yeah,
and I think Inglourious Basterds does it way better.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would 100% agree.
I think the way Once Upon a Time in Hollywood ends makes me hesitant to rewatch it, opposed to Inglourious Basterds, which I think remains as satisfying.
Yeah,
upon rewatching it.
I definitely agree.
I think one of the interesting things about I'm not going to say one of the reasons why I think Inglourious Basterds is probably an easier watch, and I will agree with you 100% because obviously Inglourious Basterds is high up on my list, and Once Upon a Time, if it is going to be on mine, it's 6th.
Okay.
So it's sort of middle towards the bottom, but I'm also coming from a position of loving all of his stuff, sort of with the exception of Jackie Brown, but even then it's an okay movie. Inglourious Basterds feels much more complete. Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood doesn't feel like it should end the way that it does. I'm happy that it did because I enjoyed the ending, but at the same time it just sort of happens like that with the subversion of history and whatnot. Yeah. Whereas Inglourious Basterds, it's sort of been leading that way the whole time, but then it happens and it still manages to catch you off guard.
I think the difference is that even regardless of what act was changed in history, the difference is that Hitler still actually has some relevance to the movie. Like, he was in the theater, he's involved, so on and so forth. That he's their goal. Sharon Tate in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has nothing to do with anything. Yeah. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't achieve anything. She doesn't, interact with anyone in any major way.
I will say she probably has some of the. I don't know if you agree with me, Michael, Chris, but I think she has probably some of the most boring and useless scenes in that entire movie.
Oh, absolutely! It's
every scene she's in.
Her position in that film is pretty much one of my largest complaints about the film. Not to say I don't think there's. I think there are elements of that film which are good, which we'll probably talk about later. But I think with the killing of Hitler, you go into that film and not expecting that to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you go, oh well, Hitler didn't die in real life, so it's unlikely that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then Tarantino pulls
and there you go. You're watching an
trick out of his hat, and you go, oh holy shit, didn't expect that.
It's an alternate history movie,
opposed to Hollywood, where you're almost expecting Sharon Tate to die because that is what happened in history. And and that's a thing you can do, but it doesn't make it great for replay value.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I actually forgot that she didn't die. I'm not going to lie. You said that then and I just remembered, oh yeah, that's right, she didn't die. Never mind.
I mean, if you removed her from the movie, nothing
would change at all. And
which I think is one of the problems of the movie is that she was not involved. Like, even if she was in the room at the end of that movie with them, it would have made her somewhat more relevant.
Yeah.
Because the tension would have been increased then, because you'd be like, okay, so this is where she dies. They've changed how she dies.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like another big thing as well is just how they stand alone, like in terms of their historical setting. Like, Inglourious Basterds is a World War II movie about killing Hitler. That is what the movie's about. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a movie that is meant to be set amongst the, Manson murders, but for 2 hours and 30 minutes, it feels like a movie that's just 1969 Hollywood, and these guys sort of trying to make it, if that makes sense.
And really, Manson doesn't play into it.
Manson doesn't play into it. Like, you could argue that whole scene in the middle with, like,
the farm
and whatnot, but even then, it just feels like a farm. Like, you know what I mean? It's just a bunch of hippies on a farm. It doesn't feel like it's a integral part of like what this story set out to do.
Yeah.
Which is, it's fine. It's just makes it less compelling than something like Inglourious Basterds. So I agree with you. I think it is a much better version of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, really. You want to break it down.
Yeah. Little quick note on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Is it anyone else think it was weird that there's a narration that just exists on sort of like the final act of the film.
That's right. Yeah,
it's like he's breaking his own little rule there, because it's like if there's a narration, it should probably open with that, or
have it.
Someone is telling this story, and it's like, who's narrating?
Yeah. He did it again in Hateful Eight, but I think that one probably worked a little bit more because it was meant to be like the intermissionary break, you coming back.
Right.
This one was like third act, middle of third act or whatnot. The thing that I actually found more jarring than it being there was the fact that it was Kurt Russell, not Samuel L. Jackson, or himself.
No, because that's what I found odd though, is because in something like because there's the narration in Inglourious Basterds, if you remember, in that brief spot
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah. But the problem was he wasn't in Inglourious Basterds. Kurt Russell was already a character in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He was the stunt coordinator.
That's right, he was. Yeah.
So it was like, is the stunt coordinator recounting the story, or is he just the narrator? Is it two separate people?
I didn't think about that. That's a fair point.
And I was just confused. I was like, so is he recounting the story? Why does he know? Why is he involved? Why does he care?
It was a really odd choice. I don't know. Maybe it's just the
time constraints, or
maybe it's just like the Martin Scorsese, Leo DiCaprio thing, where now Kurt Russell is Quentin Tarantino's new best mate. So I don't know. It's weird, but I do agree it is weird. The fact that it was there, it was weird. It felt weird, and then the wrong narrator as well. So yeah, really strange. So we've covered Death Proof, Inglourious Basterds, Django Unchained. We've sort of done Hateful Eight. I don't really want to go much into that because I like it. That's fair, but I will get into the very similar film Django Unchained of his, which I fucking love, which is my favorite.
Your favorite?
It is my favorite Tarantino film. I mean, Inglourious Basterds would be there, but I've been forbidden by the Master Commander of this fucking podcast.
I didn't forbid you.
You fucking did forbid. Yeah, the Underminer. Can you do the voice for us?
The Underminer. I don't know.
That was good.
That was really good. You should go into fucking Pixar with that. But no, I swap between these two quite regularly because, man, I find fucking Django Unchained so rewatchable. Like
it is very good. I think the stakes are established early.
Yeah, very early, and it's just I'm not a huge Jamie Foxx fan. I'm going to put that out there. Like I think he's a very good actor. That's fine. I need to see some of his other stuff that he's done. He's clearly very talented, but generally, he's not the reason I go and see a movie.
I think this is probably the best thing he's been in.
You
can pass on Miami Vice.
Yeah.
I think that's what Tarantino does best with all his actors. Is that he picks an actor which he knows will work well with his dialogue.
With his role, yeah. With his dialogue and with the role that he's casting him in. And this movie, it's got Christoph Waltz, it's got Leo DiCaprio, it's got Sam Jackson, it's got fucking Jamie Foxx, it's got so many people that are fucking really, really, really good at what they're doing. And it tells a complete story, as you mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. The only issue I have with it is the sort of odd 20 minutes at the end where it sort of feels like it's floundering a little bit, but then it makes it up with the great bloodlust at the end, which is like...
I feel like that...
Actually, no, sorry, excuse me, it's not the great bloodlust at the end. That happens prior to it, but the conclusion happens with the fire and burning down the homestead.
I agree. Definitely. It
was a really weird 20 minutes. Yeah. But John Jarratt was in it, so I like it for that.
And Tarantino doing a horrible...
That's right. That was really fucking weird. But that movie probably has my favourite Leo DiCaprio performance in it, if I'm being quite honest.
It's definitely a good one.
I think, because, we always talk about when we're talking about actors as seeing the characters and not the actors, right? And Leo DiCaprio, I think that does it better than a lot of people in a lot of his stuff. But sort of Wolf of Wall Street, sort of Once Upon a Time. It's sort of the same. I sort of see them. I'm like, that's Leo DiCaprio doing a great job, but it's still Leo. In this, I'm just like, that man is just fucking whatever Candy. I can't remember his first name. Calvin Candy.
There's something about
mesmerizing.
There's something about DiCaprio which has this weird sort of sincerity to every time he does a role. Like I think, I always kind of believe, at least I want to believe, that he's.
And that's what I mean when I'm like, Wolf of Wall Street's probably a bad example, but something like, I don't know, what was it? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood felt more like an emulation of his work in Django Unchained. Sort of similar accent, similar tone. It felt like him trying to. This is me, and that's not to say it's bad. He's certainly, I think he's, you could nominate him for an award for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I think he was robbed of a supporting Oscar nod for Django personally. I'm glad Christoph Waltz won it, but I think
I think Christopher Waltz was better in that movie, to be fair, but it would be close.
Samuel L. Jackson should have been nominated.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah. They were all great. But yeah, I don't know if you have
Good
any...
Massacre.
Great Massacre. That's probably one of the best Tarantino massacres, really. With all of the fucking... What are those called again? I can't remember what they're called. The fucking explosions. The blood...
Squibs.
Squibs, that's right, yeah. With the enter and the exit squibs and everything. It's just fucking great shit.
I like that one. That one's sort of like it's almost like a silly massacre.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not played too seriously at all.
And it makes no sense at all.
But not too silly.
Yeah.
Unlike Hollywood, which goes a little bit too silly.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
Final act of violence.
Though, yeah.
I agree.
Any other thoughts on Django Unchained?
I think it's a complete movie, and I think because you set out from the outset, you're sympathetic to Django, and he's got this, a straightforward mission that he's going to. You're also sympathetic towards Christoph Waltz's character, and immediately disliking of Leo DiCaprio's character, even though he's so likable. And
all the characters make fucking sense as well. Like, we just did a podcast about Rise of Skywalker where nothing makes sense. But everything, in 9 out of 10 movies where the people have won. In Django Unchained, there is a moment in about 45 minutes before the movie ends where the good guys have won. All they have to do is leave the building and shake hands. And 9 times out of 10, when that moment happens, where it all goes to shit because a hero, like, Infinity War, where just randomly fucking not Starkiller, what's his name? I don't fucking know. Peter Quill or whatever decides to punch Thanos and then it all goes to shit. You're sort of like, why the fuck did that happen? It makes no sense for his character. It makes no sense for the story. And you just immediately pulled out of the movie. But the way that, it makes sense that old mate would shoot fucking Candy after that whole shebang and then wanting to shit. Just shit like that. It just works. Everyone, what everyone wants to do. All of the motivate. I'm just repeating myself. I'm gushing and love this movie.
It's got a really good intro too. I remember the song that plays. The Django,
that's right. Yeah.
Theme.
I love
is really great.
Yeah,
I'd say that's
really
like up there with the Pulp Fiction opening credits.
I agree. Yeah, I would agree with you.
Tone.
Yeah. If we're going to want to talk about openings as well, I know Hateful Eight, we would have sort of dismissed that, but I think the music in that movie is fucking amazing. Ennio Morricone or whatnot.
Well, he did the Django.
Did he do Django as well? Yeah. Well,
as well as Rick Ross. There's a rap song in Django.
Oh, the rap that Jamie does? Yeah. I don't know if I necessarily like that.
I don't even think I remember that.
I like Django. The only reason it's on my 6th position is that when I saw it, I was left satisfied, but not much more. And I think the other films I've put here,
that's fair.
I left with a greater impact.
That's fair enough. I think for me, the reason Django as well is so high is because I hadn't seen any Tarantino films when I started working with you at Blockbuster. Ooh, and I started with a lot of the more recent ones. So I only saw Kill Bill Volume 2 6 months ago. And then Jackie Brown even, closed 4 months ago or something like that. So I started with his more recent stuff. So Django may have even been my first introduction to his work.
Your Quentin Cherry.
So it was my Quentin Cherry that I popped. So that could also make sense for me gushing about it so much. Moving on.
Yeah.
Gross.
I think
what. Hey, don't fucking judge me, okay? I'll pop my Quentin Cherry whenever I want.
He's pussy popping.
I'm pussy popping Quentin Cherry.
I think Hateful Eight needed more feet in it for me to really get.
Well, speaking of feet, you want fucking feet.
Which film do we rank the highest in the feet category?
Kill Bill. No, actually, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has the most feet.
I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
It has dirty hippie feet.
There was Margot Robbie feet, wasn't there, as well?
It was also Margot Robbie.
When she went to the cinema, she put her feet up.
Yeah. Best
there was multiple feet scenes in Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, but does it beat the intimate foot scene from Kill Bill Volume 1? I am segueing us into Kill Bill.
From Dusk Till Dawn has especially good.
I haven't seen that. I don't know.
Selma Hayek in her prime, pouring alcohol down her leg. That Tarantino himself licks off. That's going to be the thumbnail for this video.
Yeah. Dude, that foot does not look of age. Just saying.
How old is that? That
very old.
That is an old, a young foot rather. That foot is small. That's disturbing.
It is.
Okay. Well, we've found the thumbnail, guys. It was at this moment. Pin it. What are we at? 40 minutes, 6 seconds. Pin it. Done. All right. Kill Bill. Now, this one took me the longest to watch, and I don't know why, because it is my third favorite of all of his, like, the combined.
But see, you
volumes.
guys both combined Kill Bill in your estimates, where I don't agree.
Well, not necessarily. You can.
But which one would you prefer, though? Would you prefer 2 or 1? 'Cause for me, I think Kill Bill 1 is more entertaining.
I agree.
Though I realized Kill Bill 2... I always think back to what you said when we first were talking about Tarantino, where you said Kill Bill Volume 1 is all about style, while Kill Bill Volume 2 is all about substance.
Possibly. I remember there's a bit in number 2. Like, yeah, 2 seems to pack a bit more of an emotional punch. Like, when she gets shot and then buried alive, I remember being like...
I didn't know how she was
how
going
the fuck are you going to get out
Yeah,
of this?
exactly.
And... yeah, I don't know.
The second one... Oh, sorry. I'll let you go. Interesting.
Even though I think the way she gets out of that situation is a little bit dumb.
It's too goofy.
Yeah.
Though
it's still a cool moment. Seeing her being buried alive.
Yeah, it's certainly not what I expected to happen. I didn't expect the literal fucking like assassin, like the fucking can kill a room of 100 fucking yakuza or whatnot can be beaten by a gunslinging hillbilly who lives out in the fucking trailer park.
Yeah, man.
I was not seeing that happening at all. But no, I would agree with Chris. Kill Bill Volume 1 would probably be my favorite. I'm assuming Kill Bill Volume 1 is
I
yours.
prefer
One
that.
does have the anime scene, which is
pretty fucking great. I feel like 1 is a lot more... Well, it's Tarantino, but at his bloodiest. I think it probably has the best massacre scene of all of his. I don't know if you'd agree with me.
No.
No? Okay, I'm curious to see where this goes.
Oh, Inglourious Bastards. When they're shooting down from like the balcony, from like the Nazi audience, and then the fire happens behind the screen, and then there's like smoke bellowing out, and the projector is playing the French girl's face like laughing as they're all like
that's
burning.
right, I do remember that.
That moment is just so evil. It delights me and
fair
tickles me.
Fair enough. That's interesting because that's so. When I think Tarantino, I always think like the scene itself. So
it's not the bloodiest murder, but I think it's the most like.
Oh, when they have Hitler and they shoot him into mush, I think that's pretty
bloody, but not Kill Bill 1 bloody.
Yeah, true.
No. I mean, that's really I wouldn't have picked that personally because I always go for sort of length over sort of immediacy with these sort of things. So I immediately think of like the fucking what was it, Crazy 88? Yeah, the Crazy 88 fucking fight scene from the end of Kill Bill 1 as like the pinnacle. Also, just because like the amount of fucking craft that would have taken to make is fucking insane. Like choreographing that and then making sure everything fucking continuity wise like, matches up and works.
Well, I think that's what a lot of Kill Bill 1 is leading up to. Like it all builds to that big final confrontation. Yeah. Whereas I feel like Kill Bill 2 from memory probably has more smaller ones across.
Yeah, Kill Bill 2 has probably a lot more smaller scale action scenes, but Kill Bill Volume 1 definitely in that last hour fucking amps it up like to a ridiculous level.
I wish I could have been of age to have seen that in the cinema.
I think that would have been amazing to see.
Well, I mean, if there is ever a third one made, they might do like a 3.
That would be cool. Well, apparently,
I just don't think it'll have the same effect.
Like, sure.
To have seen that come out. When was that? Was that like
2004? I think was the Volume 2.
Yeah, so I think it must have been like 2001, 2002.
Yeah, I think it was actually. You might want to check. I think they came out a year after each other.
They could have.
So it might have been 2003, 2004.
But probably, unless you've seen Lady Snowblood, which most people probably haven't, to see something like that would have just been like completely fresh.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I do love, it's probably the tone that I would like to see him explore even more in, if he was to do another, like a Kill Bill Volume 3 or something else in that, like that weird Japanese anime sort of like fucking, I don't know, because obviously it was very, Asian inspired with the samurai swords and the fucking literally the entire like latter half of the movie being set in. It was in Japan, right? I think it was in Japan, and then Lucy Liu's character was like wasn't she Chinese? Yeah. Sorry, just making sure I'm correct. But yeah, that movie is fucking phenomenal. I really like it.
It's Tarantino in his weeaboo phase.
Yeah, Tarantino weeaboo phase. So. See, the problem is I haven't seen these movies for so long, so I'm trying to think of like actual flaws.
It's weird. Kill Bill, I think, especially part one, is very. It has this really odd combination of East and Western sort of themes. Like it's like there's the part where she's out with fighting hillbillies, and there's parts where she's fighting the Yakuza guys.
Yeah.
So it has this weird blend of the two, and I think that anime scene reinforces it by creating this weird dichotomy.
It is a really good anime scene as well.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting.
It's really well animated, I think.
I think it was Production IG who made it, who've done quite a few pretty famous anime.
I'll just have to have a look into them. I've not heard of them before. And then obviously Kill Bill Volume 2 I watched quite recently, and that one, because I'd seen Kill Bill Volume 1 like at least a year and a half before I saw Kill Bill Volume 2, and I don't know if the first one was as cheesy as the second one, but fuck, I loved how cheesy, like the entire scene where she's training under like the Kung Fu Master or whatnot, as some top tier fucking level cheese awesomeness that I just love, and like how it plays back into the popping of the second eye from the Viper or whatever her name is that I said. That fight scene's also really, really cool. So it's third favorite of my.
Yeah, I have Inglourious first, Django is second, Kill Bill Volume 1 is third, Pulp Fiction is fourth, Kill Bill Volume 2 as the fifth, Death Proof is sixth, Reservoir Dogs is seventh, Hateful Eight as the eighth, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as the ninth, and then Jackie Brown is my last.
Fair enough. I'm Django Unchained, Inglourious Bastards. I count the Kill Bill volumes as a singular piece, so they're third. Pulp Fiction, fourth. Hateful Eight is at fifth. However, if we had to count the Kill Bill volumes as separate, I would probably put it at fifth and then push Hateful Eight to sixth. Then we have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, followed by Death Proof, Reservoir Dogs, and Jackie Brown at the end.
Why do you put Once Upon a Time in Hollywood above Death Proof?
I actually don't know. That is a good question. I feel like because Death Proof is something that I haven't seen in so long, and Hollywood's probably fresher in my brain.
What did you like about Hollywood?
Hollywood? Yeah. I loved it. Just, I don't know, like it was one of those movies where, as I said, I could sit for ages and just watch Tarantino people talk, and that was all that movie was. And I found a lot to like in the relationship between Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and watching all of that. Like, obviously, Tarantino has a lot of fucking nostalgia for that period in filmmaking, probably because he grew up in that era as well. So watching, like, all of this fucking nostalgia from, his childhood be splurged out into these awesome, sort of often quite long scenes, which are really well shot and really well acted. I don't know. I could watch that sort of shit all day. Plus, I also really, really love that end 15 minutes. That violence there, I think, is fucking really good. It's over the top, but over the top in the best way.
Yeah, I think in some ways the sentimentality of the film is one of its strengths.
Yeah.
There was something that I remember noting before I went and saw the movie and thinking how relevant it was that he was picking 1969, which is end of an era sort of a setting, because when this film came out, I'm just trying to think, it came out alongside another film, which was just pure bullshit. Like, what's like a typical summer blockbuster which came out this year?
It came out October. It Chapter 2. No, it came out August, actually. Once Upon a Time. I don't know, you have, like, take your pick. It's Marvel, you got fucking superhero movies, you got Star Wars.
It might have been some really, like, Venom.
Or something like
that came out around the same time. And basically, his film flopped. And Venom, which was just this panned film, was doing really well.
Yeah.
At least, financially, not necessarily critically.
Yeah.
And just thinking, it's a fucking weird day when a Tarantino film can't get
people in
bums
seats.
on seats.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider...
So it's sort of a cinematic end of an era as well.
Yeah, it is. And it's sad, honestly, that people would rather go and see... I don't think it was Venom, because I think Venom was last year.
Yeah.
But it's like, we'll use it anyway. I think it's sad that people would rather go and see something like that and not take the time to go and see something that is from someone who obviously cares a fucking lot about what they're making.
I think it's also just the setting and the premise scared away a lot of the normies who would normally go see a Tarantino movie. Like, people go, Tarantino movie, it's about Nazis in World War II. I don't give a shit Like, it's got, probably going to have some blood and gore because that's what all Tarantino does, apparently.
Mm.
So I'd rather watch that. But if you see a movie about the heyday ending in 1960s, like Hollywood, it doesn't really get your average Joe to go and watch it. You have to sort of have some kind of attachment to that era, or be a Tarantino fan to want to go
or a cinema buff or something like that, I suppose. But it sucks because Tarantino is that sort of a guy. He's not your indie filmmaker who's going to make some fucking convoluted cryptic thing. He's not making An Enemy. Which I know you love. But it's not something.
I do not like Enemy.
I quite like it, so we can debate that. Rants and Bants episode 5. Look out for the rant of Michael and Jackson about Denis Villeneuve. Fuck you.
I also don't like Enemy much at all.
Oh, I do. Fuck both of you.
I don't like much of
really?
Villeneuve, am I saying that right?
Denis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve.
I think.
I don't really like a lot of his work.
Well, I'm trying to think what else he did. Prisoners.
That was okay.
Sicario. Arrival.
Arrival could have been good. I feel like the end kind of ruined it.
Yeah,
I can kind of see that. He also did the new Blade Runner, which I
didn't like that at all.
Really?
No, this is not Tarantino. Hold on, we'll come back to this. Anyway, I'm sorry. We can't. We had The Incredibles at the start. We can't do Denis Villeneuve right
now. What were we talking about?
Once Upon a Time. I think
I liked the music.
Hold on. Fucking first, you want to fucking get up me. And my boy Denis Villeneuve.
But see,
that's racist to French Canadians, man. I'll throw them up.
I disagree with what you said before about how you could listen to Tarantino dialogue all day long. I think his past couple of movies, he's really lost his ability to maintain the script quality.
Mm-hmm.
Because with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, most of the conversations I did not find that interesting.
Really?
I don't find Leo's character particularly interesting at all. I find I think Brad Pitt pretty much steals the film.
Yeah. Leo I thought was pretty boring because they did those parts where, in any other Tarantino movie, this would be the part where you're like, damn, this scene that goes on for 20 minutes or whatever, that's like really focused in, trying to be and there were a couple of those scenes where it's like the one with he keeps failing to take.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is the scene where Leo is supposed to have really good acting, and it's like the really moment you gotta focus on. And I was just sort of like, yeah.
Really? Because that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, is that particular scene.
It was okay. Or the one where he meets the girl for the first time. He's kind of
weird.
Which girl is this?
The little girl.
That's right. Yeah. I felt like there was like some sort of relevance to that. Like she's meant to be someone.
I think she's supposed to be someone, but I don't know if it's really made clear enough. I don't know.
You only ever get the initials on the back of her chair, I think, or something like that. I can't remember.
I don't know enough about.
But my point about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is like him as a director. He's not making these sorts of movies which are borderline inaccessible for people. People like my dad. Who love you, Scott. You're a beautiful man. The fuck knows you can't watch some movies. And
but
these movies are like no. These movies are like,
someone like him, he would go watch Inglourious Basterds. He would go watch.
No, I know, but these movies are accessible, and they can lead you into some other things which are a little more.
But that's my
convoluted.
point,
and
though.
It makes me sad that people would want to watch shit over something like that. You know what I mean?
That's my point, though, because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is not accessible. It is not mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
The topic that it presents is not something that
the way he ends the film is borderline art house.
What, with just the sort of abrupt ending cut? That's it. The movie's over.
Pulls out a fucking flamethrower.
That shit like that.
The tone of the film is just
completely
launched over his shoulder into the bin.
Yeah. Well, do we want to? Seeing as we're pretty much here.
Also, I just think I don't really. I'm so conflicted on the end of that film. I don't hate it. I just and it's like when he's like slamming her head into like
the beam, the wooden beam,
but it just becomes this like ridiculously over the top comedy.
Yeah,
and it just like clashes so strongly with the rest of the movie.
Well, it's like you're not saving Sharon with this. There's almost like this feeling of like, haha, we got him, and it's like you haven't.
We're pretty much here, so we will just segue into Once Upon a Time in Hollywood now, and we got to circle back to Reservoir Dogs because it's funny we can dissect the end or sort of the current end of his career and then go back to his start. It's fucking poetic. It rhymes. It's like poetry.
Yeah.
But see, I probably didn't look at it that way. I just looked at it as Tarantino having fun with the whole violent shenanigans
Yes,
thing.
but that's
living up
not accessible.
the end action scene. You don't think?
No, not at all.
How so? Because I would think that the action
so
would
The
make it more
people
accessible.
who went to see the first half do not want to see the second half, and vice versa.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I agree with that because I went to the
But see,
You're not.
you're the Tarantino.
Oh, you're talking
fan.
about
Yes.
Like I can imagine someone like oldies who want to see a movie about old
1969.
actors in the 60s. They don't want to see Brad Pitt getting his dick sucked by a 17-year-old. They don't want to see.
God, that was good.
they don't want to. They don't want to see some fucking head smashing dog food can throwing action. Like that's not what they're there for.
Dog food. No, it was good. I was laughing at your joke, Chris. Don't look fucking upset. Calm down.
Okay, right.
Oh shit! There goes the water
You
bottle.
spilt your water.
Oh, jeez.
Right, I'm done. Continue.
Yeah, and they weren't there for the flamethrower, obviously. So there's no point to any of that thing. Like, it just Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski's little scenes and stuff. They didn't lead into the ending as I expected they would.
I will give you your ending is really abrupt, and it feels more or less like fuck. We're at 3 hours. We've got to end this thing. Let's end it. And I know a lot of people.
It felt really slow as well. Like it was like
See, I didn't think
the
it
whole
was
part
slow.
where it's like I guess trying to do one of those tension building scenes where fucking Adam Driver and his little sluts come up the driveway and then they go up, they go back down, and then go up again, and then it's like hurry the fuck up with whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And then they just go into the other house and then just fuck about a bit. And it's like you never tense because Brad Pitt's like so cocky and he just annihilates them all in 2 seconds. So I
don't know. I felt tense because I don't know. Maybe I was just thinking about it the wrong way. But when he did successfully kill like all of them, I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was going to be like I thought Brad Pitt's character was for sure going to die. Leo was for sure going to die, and that was going to be like how it ended. I don't fully know what I expected, but I did not expect what I got, which is probably why I was so satisfied by it in the end.
I didn't get. I think it's okay, or it's mildly clever in that. Yeah, I didn't get what I thought I was going to get, but it wasn't satisfying for me.
Subverting expectations does not equal satisfaction or a quality movie.
I agree with you. I do agree with you, and I do understand what you're saying. I certainly was satisfied because I got my Tarantino violence, but I know that a lot of people who perhaps would have been interested in the film, as you said, wouldn't want, like certain audiences want to see certain things, and neither audience is happy. But I don't know. Like I didn't think it was. I sat there for it's like a 3-hour movie. It's like a 2-hour, it's 59-minute movie or something like that. And I left, and my first thought was that was like an hour and a half. I was ready for like it to keep going for double the like.
I
kind of would have been happy if there was more of it because then it could have felt more complete.
Yeah, which is I agree because the ending does feel like it was very rushed towards the end. Like we need to.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was like supposed to be like well we've subverted this part which happened in real life, so therefore the rest happened as is normal. Blah blah. But it just sort of cut immediately to them just wandering off, and then you sort of wonder if that is the end, or if there's something else leading into it. Or I mean, I thought there was going to be like another scene where Manson family comes and gets revenge on them for that or whatever, but it just ends.
I think the film probably would have been almost better off if it just removed. I know that's literally what we're talking about now, but if we just removed that whole Manson. It doesn't need to be there.
Possibly,
really.
Yeah. It could have made the film more based on the Manson family, which would have been fun.
Yeah.
I think the scene on the ranch is pretty good.
Yeah, I'd like that whole tense scene where he busts that fucking hippie up.
Yeah. Or you could have made it more focused on like the film industry stuff, but just keep it that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I liked some of the what was the name of the show he was on?
I can't remember, but I know some
Bonanza.
Something like that.
The stuff with like Bonanza, I thought was fine, but it's fine isolated to its own thing. The blending of them, I don't think really worked.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't care much of what happened with the Hollywood stuff. Like the actual shooting of the films and stuff was fine, but the parts is like him, getting his new wife or getting like his new moving to a new place or whatever.
Section was where like a lot of that narration was happening, right? Like when he went to Italy.
Because it skips in time a bit too.
Yeah.
So I think that's trying to sort of smooth that over, but it just feels like why would I give a shit?
That last third act where that narration, as we mentioned before, happens, irrespective of the narrator problems, it doesn't. The first 2 acts of the film feel really consistent in terms of like speed. I feel like it's moving at a pace,
at the end.
and then at the end it speeds the fuck up, and that certainly contributes to the jarring ending as well, because you're sort of suddenly in this part where like they're parting ways and no longer hanging out, and then it's like just the movie's over, and you're like, okay. Yeah, it was. The third act was certainly did feel like it was about 30 minutes shorter than it should have been, and that can be just down to editing and choices of which scenes to show and which ones to use, and etc. and so on and so forth. Not necessarily.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it helped the film in the end, and but I don't know. It just didn't leave the best taste in my mouth. Just sort of
But I don't know. I don't agree that it felt slow. I personally didn't feel like it was slow at all. I could watch that movie again, and maybe a second viewing will change my opinion. But as I said, I sat there for 3 hours and I never once wanted to get up and leave, and I would have preferred for it to keep going, honestly. But I'm
a good taste in your
mouth. Did leave a good taste in my mouth.
Like a hippie foot in your mouth.
Like a hippie foot in my mouth, like the blind guy in the back of the hippie girl's apartment.
Really, what else would any of us need? To be honest,
a foot in the mouth.
Yeah, that's all you need.
That's what my dad would say to me. Oh dear, that sounds bad. So I think I'm curious if we had to give it a score out of 10. I have no fucking clue. I'd probably sit on a 7.
I'd probably go with 5 or 6.
5 or 6, Michael?
Out of 10?
Yeah,
probably about a 6. But 6 isn't that bad, really.
No,
for a Tarantino film, I'd say that.
And I can understand why it's probably close down the bottom for you now. I feel like mine will probably go up a little bit upon a second viewing and settle on like a 7.5 or so. But yeah, I don't know. You've raised a lot of valid points, which I went in ready to defend this movie, man. You fucking brought me down. I can't do it.
We're just using logic.
I know. Hey! I'm not judging. I'm thanking you for opening my eyes. But now that we've...
Well, you were blind, but now you see.
Yeah.
But now we've seen the end, or so far the end. Let's go back to the beginning and talk about his first movie, because we're talking about this one being a failure, commercially, I mean, like financially and whatnot. Reservoir Dogs obviously put him on the map. So what do we think of that movie? Because I rewatched that quite recently, and I am actually surprised how much I enjoyed. Because I've seen it once before that. I thought it was alright, and then I rewatched it again, and I was like, this is actually pretty great. Outside of its obvious limitations in terms of budget.
See, I do enjoy it, but I'm not that keen on... Like, it's quite short, and I still think there's scenes that drag in that. Like, a lot of the parts after Tim Roth gets shot, where he's just sort of moaning and groaning about, and Harvey Keitel is carrying him about, they just go on, and it just sort of... Until... sort of they all split up and everything. I don't think it picks up properly until the flashbacks sort of start happening, and then there's a bit more movement going on with the plot.
That's fair.
At the start,
I also think a lot of the Tim Roth flashbacks are probably a little bit unnecessary. Like, I mean, I know they're there to establish him as the undercover cop or whatnot, but they also sort of... Because the best part of that movie is, the whole sort of pseudo-interrogation that's going on and the distrust between all of the different members of the heist. And then you sort of just get Tim Roth by himself. And I love Tim Roth, obviously. But, I don't think that helps a lot. Those are the parts that drag for me anyway. You sort of know where it's going anyway.
That's fair.
Yeah. I do think that it has probably one of the cooler scenes that he's ever done with the stuck in the middle with you torture scene. I do really like that, and what Harvey Keitel... Not Harvey Keitel. What's his name?
Michael Madsen.
Michael Madsen, sorry. I always get those two confused for some reason. He was perfect in that, actually. And that's probably one of my favourite scenes in the movie, if I'm being completely honest.
It's definitely the most memorable scene, I would say.
Yeah.
But, I think the movie as a whole is kind of forgettable. I don't think many people really talk about it much anymore.
Yeah. No, certainly not. Sort of, the problem was it was immediately eclipsed by Pulp Fiction.
Well, it's very baseline.
2 years later.
Like, you think of, like, a criminal heist movie, it's pretty much like the cliche you think of.
Yeah.
But the difference is, I guess, that it doesn't show the heist at all.
Yeah. And the narrative, the way that it sort of works and weaves through, it's sort of like It's not a linear narrative.
I don't really know if there's a point to that though, because it doesn't really show us anything. Like, there's no point to jumping all over the place. That's really
but you can certainly say it was a unique thing to be done though.
Not really,
you don't think?
Because like normally when someone does that, they do it for a purpose. Like they go, oh, this revelation will happen because I flash back to this moment that happened here. But it's just like Tim Roth just flashes back to him just fucking around in the bathroom or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're sort of like I guess it shows more of his character, but it almost feels like filling time because it doesn't change. Yeah, it doesn't change much of it. Tim Roth's already shot. Is he going to live? Like, he's probably not going to live. So why do we care about his backstory?
Yeah. So you feel like that shaving off that 20 minutes? Or
well, I don't even think shaving off. I think just rearranging a lot of the parts and maybe sort of connecting them together a bit more with other scenes or something.
Yeah.
Might be.
Do you think perhaps by showing those scenes, if he did those at the start of the film and going in with the knowledge that Tim Roth was the mole all the time, you think that would have increased tension a little bit? Because I think the tension between.
I think he should have waited a little bit at least before revealing it, but I don't know if it would have changed a whole lot.
Okay, that's fair. Well, I don't know. Do we have anything else? Any other talking points about the Mr. Tino of Tarans? I suppose one thing, if we want to close it out,
Tarantino.
Kino. If we wanted to close it out, I suppose what would be your ideal next Tarantino film? What would you want for him to do to, obviously you two would like to see him. I would hope that you would like to see him come back with something great.
I do. I want him to kind of, because I do think he's clearly a very passionate filmmaker.
Yeah, I would agree.
I want him to undo my apathy towards Hateful Eight and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I think he could do something good with the Ozploitation genre, which he was interviewed for a documentary a while ago, and he clearly knows his stuff, and it's influenced stuff like Death Proof.
Yeah.
I think he could do something cool in Australia. He always has Australian,
one of his favourite
like tropes. There'll be there'll be an Australian thing, and it'd be cool to sort of maybe tie all those in with an actual Australian set.
Yeah. And there's a pretty cool interview actually with him talking about his favourite Australian movies.
Oh, he's always here.
Yeah.
And other than that, or if not that, just doing a genre which he hasn't done before. I think a Star Trek thing would be cool.
Yeah, like a sci-fi sort of.
Or just engaging in a property which he hasn't written.
Yeah,
and just
I think putting himself outside of his comfort zone would be a good idea. Like way more so. Like not like he should almost be like someone else sort of decides on a genre for him, and he says like it's just like here's the genre. You write a script for it. Based around this property or based around this idea, and sort of force him to work outside his comfort zone and his own constraints.
That's fair.
I think Once was too indulgent of what he wants.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Scorsese passion project sort of thing. It felt that way in the self-indulgence.
I wouldn't be against him going back and doing another like crime mob sort of thing.
Yeah.
With all of these old actors or something, like reuse some of them in sort of a similar idea, but sort of recapturing that old spirit, I suppose, but that's sort of something I'd want him to do as like one of his final projects or something. I think would be good, but I think he needs to branch out more.
Yeah. Well, I really liked, if I had to not necessarily pick something, but an idea that I think would be really cool is I liked your idea of him like doing something with a pre-existing intellectual property. Like we mentioned earlier, his IMDb had a Star Trek listing, as you said. I think that would be really cool because I think he's only ever said, because of hassles and whatnot he's had with, people and copyright and all sorts of different things.
The problem is if he starts trying to do like an IP like Star Trek, for instance, they're going to say, here are the rules.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't do your master
and that's what he said.
You can't put your feet in there.
Yeah, and that's what he said, and I can't remember where. It may have even been... I have a book at home with interviews from him. I don't know if it's from that. But anyway, he said that if he got full control, Star Trek would be the property that he would like to do something for. So I think something like that could be really cool, especially considering Star Trek is dialogue and Tarantino is dialogue, so at his best anyway. So I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I'd be happy with Kill Bill Volume 3 if he made that happen. Not that it needs to happen, but... I don't know.
I think it would be a waste for him to stop making movies at 10 or 11 or something like that. When, he could still keep making for the next 20 years, to be honest.
I don't think it's impossible for him to get a second win.
No, I don't think it's impossible at all. Certainly not. But yeah. Fingers crossed that the next thing can be masterpiece, like Mac 2.
Yeah, well, I think
Shut the fuck. Don't judge me.
I think there's definitely potential, but he needs to sort of maybe look at his own tropes that he's created that he keeps reusing, sort of without, I think, sort of like self reflection on what he does. I think he likes to reuse his own cliches sometimes without really noticing or caring.
I think it's probably important too that he doesn't. I don't know if you agree.
I don't want him to overuse these cliches.
I don't know if you agree with me, but you don't want him to fall into himself, right?
Like when he's making the Tarantino I think he has almost done that at this stage.
Because I will agree with you if you say Hateful Eight is just a Tarantino movie.
Well, the problem
that is what it is. You go in and you expect 25-minute dialogue scenes and whatnot. I liked it because I'm a Tarantino fan, but I can definitely see that as being something that you don't want him to fall into as a director, which he borderline has now, which is unfortunate.
I'd be interested to see him go to a more art house direction, like him going all out with like the weirdness and creating something, even something like more like Nicholas Winding Refn or something like something.
I was actually just thinking, I would not be against another collaborative project with someone like Nicholas Winding Refn or who's the guy that did Bone Tomahawk?
I know the guy.
Like S. Craig Zala or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Very similar, like Bloodlust type of thing.
Yeah.
But a bit.
It might be interesting to see him work with someone who he's inspired to see how that would affect the work or whatever.
Yeah. No, that would be cool.
Because I think it would be interesting to see him adapt some new sort of techniques and.
Well, it would be nice to see him evolve again because we sort of got to see his style evolve very rapidly from, Reservoir Dogs, and then you get like an immediate quality increase in Pulp Fiction, and then you got sort of like a weird. We haven't spoken much about Jackie Brown. We probably won't.
It's not really much to say.
To be honest, Jackie Brown was okay. That's all we're going to say. But you got to see his style evolve a lot, and I think in his early career he did a lot of that bouncing around in terms of themes. Like he's done basically nothing but westerns for the past 5 to 6 years.
Oh, once upon a time Hollywood wasn't really a western.
It was dipping there. Like a lot of that movie is about them shooting a TV western.
I think that's what he means.
Yeah. So a lot of it has those. They all sort of start to meld into each other. So it would be nice to see him sort of shift out of that sort of niche that he's got and make something completely different, like he used to. He was going from heist movie to fucking drama with fucking non-linear narrative to samurai movies to car chase fucking nonsense. So yeah, I think just diversity. I think that's probably something that we'd all agree on. Changing and mixing it up.
Yeah. Well, that's
my
fix anyway.
Merry Christmas, motherfuckers! You've been Tarantino'd. The most.
We're not ending it with that.
No, I know.
I'm sorry.
What do we end it with? Just fucking boops the thing.
Oh well, that's Rants and
Happy Christmas, boyo! I'm asleep. That's it.
I'm sorry, but no.
Is it end? Are we done? I love you. Message me on Tinder. I want people. That's what I want. Good shit. End it. Fucking cut it now. Cut it now.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Chrysler.